Adora waited for hours, but Nnamdi did not return, and this broke her heart as she wondered why he had to leave without saying a word. Once upon a time, in the great town of Ifite, lived an albino named Adora. Adora was an orphan who lived alone in her late father's hut. Her parents died a few years ago, leaving her all alone in the world. Many years ago, on the night when Adora was born, the villagers could not hold back their whispers and speculation. Some believed that her birth under the full moon was a sign of an evil power, whilst others believed that she was cursed. The entire village kept away from Adora's home and stopped associating with her parents, who never cared what the people thought of their daughter, as all they could see was their precious daughter, whose heart was filled with love. However, after the death of her parents, Adora struggled to navigate life alone, as everyone avoided her like a plague. No one associated with her because she looked so different from them. The villagers had never seen an albino before and wondered if she was a spirit. They warned their children not to associate with her, and whenever Adora went to the market, everyone looked at her like a ghost and refused to sell their goods to her. Even on the streets of the village, the people ran away from her, calling her an amosu, which means an evil spirit, and this broke Adora's heart, as all she ever wanted was to be loved and accepted by her people. One day, whilst Adora was heading to her father's farm, a group of children trailed her as they sang some songs, mocking her looks. Adora felt so terrible about herself and wished that all this could stop. She got to her father's farm and caught sight of a poor beggar sitting a short distance away. She perceived a very foul smell and wondered where it was coming from as she walked into her father's farm and began to walk. A few minutes later, Adora saw two girls bullying the poor beggar that sat in the distance. They called him a smelly pig and told him to leave their farm. Adora watched as the girls insulted and belittled the poor beggar, who they pushed out of their farm. Filled with compassion, Adora confronted the girls as she defended the poor beggar. The girls laughed at her, calling her an amosu, but Adora paid no mind to them as she went to the aid of the poor beggar. She introduced herself to him as Adora, saying that she had just finished harvesting some yams and wondered if he would be willing to have a meal with her. The poor beggar was so excited and accepted to have a meal with Adora. He could not believe that anyone could be kind to him, despite the fact that he stank so badly. Adora and the beggar journeyed back to Adora's hut as she prepared a delicious pot of yam porridge for him. Adora gave the beggar a plate of porridge, and the beggar ate the food like one who had not eaten in weeks. She smiled as she watched him eat. Her heart was so glad to see the joy on the poor beggar's face. The beggar was so grateful to Adora for being so kind. He asked if they could be friends, and Adora was over the moon, as she had never had a friend before. They spent hours talking, and Adora asked the poor beggar why he decided to live on the streets, and the poor beggar told her his story, saying that his family rejected him because of his terrible smell. He told Adora that he woke up one morning to a very bad smell and wondered where it was coming from. Little did he know that the smell was coming from him. The poor beggar told Adora that he spent all he had trying to find a cure, but all the remedies he found failed, leaving him penniless. His family later rejected him, so he had no other option but to live on the streets. Adora felt compassion for the poor beggar and offered him a room in her house. She had always lived alone since the death of her parents and had no problem sharing her home with a homeless beggar. The poor beggar was so elated as he thanked Adora for being so kind to him despite his horrible smell. From that day forward, Adora and the poor beggar, whose name was Nnamdi, became inseparable friends. They worked together on Adora's father's farm, cultivating the land and planting seeds. As Adora and Nnamdi's bond grew stronger, the people of Ifite mocked them, saying that a friendship between a cursed albino and a cursed beggar was an abomination to their land. The whispers of the villagers grew louder, and some even started spreading rumors that Adora and Nnamdi were bringing a curse upon the land of Ifite. One morning, Adora woke up and noticed that Nnamdi was terribly ill. Unsure of what to do, Adora remembered her late mother's healing herb, which she always gave to her when she was sick. She prepared the herb and gave to Nnamdi to drink. A few minutes later, Nnamdi fell into a very deep sleep, and Adora, on seeing that he was asleep, rushed off to the farm to harvest some food items which she would use to prepare a meal for them to eat. When she returned from the farm, Nnamdi was no longer in her hut. She searched the whole hut for him, but Nnamdi was gone, and this troubled Adora, who wondered where he would have gone in his current condition. Adora waited for hours, but Nnamdi did not return, and this broke her heart as she wondered why he had to leave without saying a word. Days passed, and Nnamdi had still not returned. Adora's heart grew heavy with worry for Nnamdi's well-being. Determined to find him, she set out on a journey through the town of Ifite, asking anyone who might have seen him. The villagers, however, ignored her and kept their distance, as they didn't want to have anything to do with her. The next day, Adora went to her father's farm to harvest some crops when she saw a group of men in her farm. Confused at what was happening, she approached the men to confirm what they were doing on her father's farm, and the men told her that the king of their village had taken over the farm. Adora was so devastated, as this was her only source of livelihood. She decided to head to the king's palace to plead with the king, but when she got there, the king refused to see her. Adora waited in the palace for hours and decided to return back home when a palace guard approached her, saying that the king had agreed to see her now. Adora followed the palace guard to the king's throne room and caught sight of Nnamdi, the poor beggar, sitting on the throne. Adora was so confused and asked what was going on, and Nnamdi revealed to her that he was the king. Adora, in that moment, could not believe that she never recognized her own king. She could not wrap her head around the fact that she lived in the same house with the king of her village for weeks without knowing this. What had happened was that the king of the village for so many years had been struggling with a very terrible smell. He was told that all the kings before him passed through the same predicament, as only through love freed them from the curse. It was revealed that the first king brought the curse upon all the kings that would ever rule the kingdom, to ensure that all the kings after him married only a woman who truly loved them and seek the good of the kingdom. This was because the first king fell in love with a very wicked and heartless woman who pretended to love him. She took advantage of the king's love for her and used her position to harm the kingdom. The first king, in his regret and sorrow, sought a way to prevent such betrayal from happening again. He sought the guidance of his most trusted elders, and together they devised a plan. The elders invoked an evil curse which would afflict each future king with a foul smell until he found true love. Only the pure-hearted love of a woman who accepted him despite the curse could break it. As Nnamdi revealed this secret to Adora, he urged her to keep it a secret as he went on to express his gratitude for her unconditional love. Nnamdi asked Adora to be his queen, and Adora, without hesitation, embraced her destiny as the queen of Ifite. She could not believe how her life changed within a twinkle of an eye as the once rejected albino, who they called cursed, became the queen, and the entire village regretted how they treated her. They learned their lesson that true worth goes beyond appearances and that being kind is one of the most powerful forces in the world. The lesson to be learned from this story is that we should not look down on people because they look different from us. Treat everyone the way you would like to be treated because we are all humans with blood running through our veins. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.